My name is Stephanie Jaipal, and I'm so excited to be talking to you guys today about all of the new changes we have in our new DAT course. So I graduated from the University of Georgia last May. Some of y'all might have seen me in some previous videos. I've worked for Kaplan as a student brand ambassador. I still work for them in the DAT, OAT, PCAT area. I currently live in Atlanta, and I'm also an orthodontic assistant in addition to working for Kaplan. And I'll be starting dental school in July, which is super exciting. I took a Kaplan course myself, so I'm super familiar with just being a student and being in the process of applying to dental school, trying to study for the DAT, and the million other things you have going on. So I actually decided that I wanted to take a gap year, which meant that I wasn't going to apply to dental school until I graduated. So that being said, I didn't actually start studying for the DAT until my senior year, which granted I could have started earlier, but this is just the way that I decided to do it. So I took a Kaplan course prior to my DAT, and I ended up getting an above average score that I was very happy with. I only had to take the DAT once, and I was accepted to multiple dental schools my first time applying, which was a huge relief. So like I said, I'm so excited to talk about our new features in the course, some of our new course strategies we have, some of our new content. My Kaplan course was so helpful for me, so I could only imagine how helpful it's going to be for y'all now that we have some new things to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen just to give you guys an insight of what our course looks like. So right now, pretty much this is what it looks like when you start. You still start off with an orientation video, you take a diagnostic exam, and then just so y'all know that this is from this is kind of like a live online course example that I'm showing you guys. So if you did take that course, this is exactly what you would see. So I'm just going to be running through some of my favorite changes in the course and some of the things that I really wish were available when I was taking my Kaplan course. So the first thing is this new resource we have called the Q Bank. It's super cool. So we're still working on it, which is why you don't see like the P80 stuff in here or quantitative reasoning. But just to give you all an example, you go ahead and you can create the type of test that you want to practice with. So say I want to do untimed, it's my first time practicing, and I'm just going to say for this that I just want to do biology stuff. There's 248 biology questions available, which is super cool. And I'm just going to say my title is just Bio 1. And to start off, I'm going to do 99 questions. You hit create assignment, and then you have 99 questions that you could practice with, submit, see what you got wrong, and then there's still the usual Kaplan analysis in terms of what parts of biology, what subsections you need to work on, and you'll be able to see all of that when you submit this. And then you could always go back to the Q Bank and regenerate new tests with questions that you got wrong, questions that you haven't used as yet, and you can do this for all of the subjects, which is super cool because when it comes to the DAT, there's only so much content you could study, and I found that for me, instead of only like sitting down and studying content, I like to practice questions because I wanted to know in what ways the content would be presented to me on the test, and then I can use my practice questions, like for example the Kaplan analysis, to know what specific concepts I needed help on or that I needed to focus more than others on. So being able to have those questions as a resource is, I know it's going to be super helpful. So I'm just going to get out of this. Okay, I got 0% correct. And I'm just going to go back to our study plan. That brings me to the next point. So I'm just going to go down to strategy and reading, for example. All of the answers and explanations are now available online, which is really helpful. So you would go here, you can open it up, and then after practicing your questions, you can check all of your answers and have fun explanations that help you out. And I'm just going to get back to our study plan. Okay. So in our reading comprehension, while we're in this section, I just do want to point out that there are new question types in all of our reading comprehension resources in our course. The big thing with reading comprehension is when you start off studying for the DAT, you're not going to know how you study reading comprehension. And this section is, I know you're going to hear me say this a ton about the DAT being a lot focused on practicing. Studying for your DAT is going to revolve around practicing everything. But with reading comprehension, you really just want to practice, practice, practice. You want to understand the types of questions that show up on the DAT and be able to answer them quickly and efficiently. So having the new question types that are reflected in the DAT in your course is definitely going to help you with that. I do want to come down to the quantitative reasoning section right now. So when I took my DAT, there were questions in the quantitative reasoning section that I hadn't seen before. They weren't hard, but when you're taking an exam like the DAT, you don't want to be surprised with something you've never seen before. So while I still did fine, I would have loved to have seen those questions, and y'all get to see them now in this new course. Our course now has the new question types that reflect those questions on the DAT, and there's just new structure to going about those questions, and there are also these videos that you see here, like fractions videos, scientific notation, special question types. Those are so helpful. Like if you can see, they're only 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 2 minutes, and then workshops are a little bit longer. But you do want to practice a ton to get better at the quantitative reasoning section. And it's really hard to look at all the math concepts and sit there and try to teach yourself. I'm sure all of y'all will agree math isn't something that you can read like science or like just biology or organic chemistry and try to memorize things. You have to understand how to do them. And when you don't have a ton of time because you're trying to study all these different subjects for the DAT, videos will be your best friend in learning math concepts. So having those and understanding question types and being able to solve them quickly is essential to doing well on the DAT. And I know that having these videos is a really exciting way to learn concepts quickly. So another thing that's super exciting is that the PAT and organic chemistry sections are going to be taught exclusively online by subject matter experts. So it makes it easier for the instructor to deal with a lot of the visual aspects. And then we've also made sure that content experts, so that people teaching them are content experts. So they really understand what they're teaching and can help you in any way that you need. So you click to join, so typically you schedule those sections and then you just click to join them. Speaking of the perceptual ability classes, it just brings me to my favorite change. We have a lot of new PAT resources on our new DAT courses. So we go through a new structure. In the courses now, they go through the hardest question types to the easiest. So, for example, we start with like hole punching, keyholes, top front end, and then do things like cube counting and angle ranking. This is such a plus because I started out learning the easy stuff for the perceptual ability section, and I definitely took it for granted, like how much you have to practice and pay attention to that section and put in an effort, because I thought it was so easy, like it's common sense type thing. I'm good at perceptual ability, like I've got this. And then when I got to questions like top front head and keyholes, I had no idea what to do. When I started off, I was getting like 1 out of 10 correct, and I was just so overwhelmed, and I ended up having to spend more time on the PAT section and studying it closer to my exam date because I didn't realize early enough that it was actually kind of hard. So that's super awesome that you'll get to start off really tackling those hard sections. They have new strategies for those questions as well. I found that the Kaplan strategies I was given helped me a lot, but I do know some of my friends and some of their students that it just didn't click for them. So being able to see different strategies and different ways to go about tackling these questions is really, really cool. So there's something super exciting that I want to show y'all. Now we have controllable rotating objects in our perceptual ability section, which is just so awesome because it's so hard to try to imagine a 3D object on a 2D screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and show y'all an example in a full length. So bear with me, it'll take just a second to get there. So we have all these full length exams for you on here. And there are even more full lengths, which I'll get into after I show you the PAT. But that's super cool. The more resources you have in any situation is better. And especially with Kaplan courses, when I took my Kaplan course, I found that there were so many things to study for and so many resources given to me that I didn't even get to maybe like the last fourth of them. And I tried my best to like look over everything at least once. So being able to have just like an overwhelming amount of resources, you know, you're never going to run out of practice material, especially with that Q bank. You're always going to have what you need to study. So I'm just going to do this. So this is what a full length test looks like. It goes through all of the sections in the same exact way that you'll see them on the actual DAT. And like I said, you just don't want to be surprised by anything on the DAT. So really having an understanding of the layout of the test and the format in which you'll go through it is super helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go to the perceptual ability test. And for example, I'm going to go to this keyholes question. And you can see that I'm sure a lot of you haven't looked at the P80 questions yet, especially if you haven't started prepping. This looks overwhelming. You see this thing, and you're supposed to figure out which of these objects it can fit through. And trust me, when I started, when I was in your shoes, I had no idea how to go about a question like this, and I would just guess because I just had no idea. But now, we just have this for all of our PAT questions, and you can really understand what you're looking at. Like this object is the object right here, and I know it might not seem like that, and you're kind of wondering, how would I have ever known that if I hadn't seen this? That's how I was when I was in my Kaplan course. So it's super exciting that you can try different strategies and figure out what works for you on the PAT section, but you'll always have these objects to either help you understand or further your understanding of what you're looking at. So I'm just going to exit out of this, and we'll go back to our study plan. So like I was mentioning before, we have some more full-length tests. I found that when I was studying for the DAT, the more realistic and timed practice tests, or like just realistic and timed practice I was doing, the better. Whether it was practicing section by section with the same time limits I would have on the test, or practicing a full-length test, I just thought that it was a better method of studying for me. And then especially in the few weeks leading up to my DAT, or even the week leading up to my DAT, I would do a practice test a day. And when I was in a Kaplan course, I actually ran out of full lengths to take. So I was going to like Google and other places to try and figure out where I can find more practice tests, or how I can generate a practice test, or basically what I could do to practice more. With 7 full-length tests, I doubt that you would run out of, and with a Q bank, I doubt that you would run out of practice. And it's super nice to be able to gauge with these full-length practice tests where you stand. So definitely don't like jump the gun and try and take them before you feel like you're ready. They're kind of like paced out. So in the beginning, you'll be taking a diagnostic test to just see where you stand right at the beginning. You'll take a full length after you go through the first unit, which is really like after you've learned half the content, and then you'll take a full length again after the second unit. And what I did is then I studied and really focused on what content I needed to review before I started tackling those full lengths. I took the full lengths as if they were my actual DAT. And then from there, from each full length, I was able to go back and review the content that I needed. And if I had this course, what I would do is I would take a full length, and then if I did really poorly on like the biology section, I would go to the Q bank, practice there, see what specific concepts I didn't get, and then go back and study those. So it's cool to have different options and all of these different resources to build out your study schedule, which is something that I had a lot of resources, but I obviously would have totally loved having more. So there's so many new things happening with this DAT course. I just pointed out some of my favorite things and some of the things that I think would have helped me even more if I had them in my course. I wish I had all of this in my course, but I'm so excited that all of y'all will have the option to prep with prep in a way that works better for you and have all different resources to personalize your study plan. So just so you know, the course options are still the same. There's the in-person courses, which are really good if you need to be held liable to attending your class. There's the live online course, which is essentially the same as the in-person one, but you just take all of your courses online. There's self-paced, which is good if you're really, really busy. And of course, we always have private tutoring options. If you all have any questions, you can always send us a message on our Kaplan DAT OIT PCAT Facebook page, and I will reply to you. You could always just comment with us too. You can chat live on our website, or you can call 1-800-CAP-TEST.